Let's get started from the beginning. I think that there's maybe misconception that video is really hard to do. It's really hard to get started, to get things going. Can you guys each talk about how you both got started? What was it that, kind of got you over that first barrier, and how did you think about it? Maybe starting with you, Jake.
I've always been fascinated with social media, and back in the MySpace days, I had a good layout. Let me tell you, I really did. And then, so I was, going through this phase of my life, and I was finding myself, and I was traveling, and I actually had a Tumblr blog, and still do, and. So, writing about my travels and what I was doing, and I actually made a lot of friends who were making YouTube videos who were in the States, because I just made so many friends who were overseas. I'm a country boy, so I was like, oh my God, someone's talking to me from California. And and this is, a few years ago now, I'm getting a bit dusty, but, and they were like, you should start making videos. You've got a fun tone of voice that people are enjoying, so why don't you do it? And please don't go back and watch the old ones because they're not nice. Well, I don't think so. I think I've hidden a couple. But, and that's just kind of how I got started with it all. More so just to keep a track of what I'm doing and to share with my friends and family what I'm up to. It was never intended any more than that, I think, from the beginning.
Cool. And what about you, Natalie? How'd you get started 10 years ago?
I just finished modelling. No, too much laughter. No, I was at uni at the time, and I'm a bit of a hermit, so I enjoyed online things, and I'd read about YouTube in the newspaper, and so I hopped online, and there was just a really nice community. I watched what were video responses at the time, and I wanted to make one. So I used my iMac, and I made a video that had no audio, and I hit send. And they were like, you don't have any audio. So that happened 3 times. And then eventually I had a video, and people were like, oh, an Asian girl with a British accent. And I rode that wave for a long time. And it just grew into something that I really enjoyed. I think most people who are on YouTube can agree that one of the best things about it is you just form so many friends who you become incredibly close to, and I really enjoy that. So that's what's always brought me back to YouTube.
Awesome. And I think it's probably encouraging for everybody to know that even though these guys really have a system figured out now, in those first few videos, everyone's embarrassed of their first video. Yeah. So that's okay if anyone else in this room feels a little bit embarrassed or unsure of their technical proficiency. And what were sort of your biggest fears about starting to create content, and what were the easiest things, like kind of both sides of the equation? What was easy, what was hard?
I think for me, the hardest thing was actually feeling inspired. I'm originally from Adelaide. There wasn't
Ooh, someone else.
Listen, where am I going? I'm originally from Adelaide. There wasn't much going on, and I'm like, well, who's going to want to hear what I've got to say? I think I found that difficult at first, but then you realise over time that you actually have a lot to say. You do have an opinion. You have, you are creative. Everyone's creative in their own right. And so the hardest was getting that inspiration and the guts to actually be like, what are people going to think of this?
Yeah.
And then on the easiest on the other side is turning around and being really, really proud. And I think the easiest thing was the community, like embracing that. That for me was the easiest thing. I was like, I thrive off of being social. So I think that was the easiest thing for me.
Yeah, I'd echo a lot of that. I have no humility, so when I started, I didn't really think about it. But everyone's just very lovely, and every now and then I admit I get quite anxious. I go through big gaps of uploading, and I get very anxious because I don't really upload very regularly, and I don't do a lot of things, I guess, that a lot of successful YouTubers do. And sometimes I get a bit anxious, and sometimes I think, oh, this isn't what people want. They want consistent content. They want a very particular caliber. But then once you get over that, you realise as long as it's something that you're happy with, somebody out there will probably enjoy it. And even if they don't, chances are you'll be very happy that you accomplished something that you wanted to.
Yeah, I think that is the really important thing is like staying true to what you want to do.
Yeah.
And hopefully somebody else out there agrees and is excited about it, but not letting that kind of determine everything, right?
Yeah.
And it's how many of you guys have met someone online that has become a friend in real life? Can anyone else relate to that? Most of the room. That's amazing.
For those people who haven't, they're like,
It's
no.
like all my friends.
No.
I love that you know, that's part of, I guess, how you got started, but also kind of what really attracted you to the platform in the first place.
I think it really fueled me in what, like the more friends and more people I was connecting with, it really fueled what I was doing, if that makes sense in some weird way. It was like that almost becomes your inspiration, the people around you, the people you're connecting with. And yeah, I mean, I've made the most amazing friends over time through YouTube and social media and the internet. Yeah, it's great. It's been so good.
A lot of people talk about there being different barriers, you know, with people put this image of themselves up online. And a lot of people do when you go through all of that, like Instagram, all that kind of stuff. But I must admit, I mean, even though like my YouTube personality is one thing, but there are definitely interactions that I have that are very honest and very raw. And I think because of that, you make very genuine friendships, if that makes sense.
It's awesome. And what we're, I guess, you know, we have some people in the room. Some people have YouTube channels. Some people don't yet. Some people are kind of early on in that journey. Any kind of tips that you can give people as they're getting started and experimenting with video? What's your piece of advice? Like looking back on you from 5 or 10 years ago, what would you tell yourself?
Probably, this is very technical, but I'd probably just say audio. I get a lot of people asking me, like, what camera should I get? And now I actually, you know, on the side, I film events and I film corporate videos and stuff. And like audio, people ask about cameras. Cameras are great, all that kind of stuff, but your phone cameras are pretty amazing now. Audio is the thing. I know that sounds weird, but people just want to be able to hear. You can have a phone conversation with someone and be incredibly engaged, but if you can't hear them, that's it, if that makes sense. So even if your image is unclear, you could have a terrible, you know, like conversation with someone on Skype, but if you can hear them, everything's okay. So I would just say audio is very important because you probably have something to say, and that's something I would focus on before cameras.
Good tip.
Yeah.
What about you, Jay?
I think just doing it, like just sit down and just do it, you realize over time that it is like a skill that you learn and you get better and better with every video you make, and every single YouTuber or person on the internet you speak to, they will say the same thing, that their first videos were not great, and that's fine because we all have to learn how to make content. I think I used to film mine on like my iBook G4.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Nice.
Good
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
I know I had a Mac. I was really forward thinking back then. But yeah, honestly, it's just about doing it great, creating the content and then learning like, oh, this is great. I mean, I'm not kidding, I only stopped using iMovie about 6 months ago.
So what do you, I'd love to just delve into this technical piece just for 1 minute in case anyone is interested in what you guys shoot on. Like, what did you start with and what do you use now? And I guess kind of including the other kit that you might use, like lighting and editing software.
Yeah, do you want to go? You can. Yep.
Okay, mine's a bit, again, because I work in this field, so I have a few more toys than I even need for work. But I use I have lighting and I use a C100 for my videos and I edit on Premiere Pro. But that being said, when we travel, I also sometimes have used phones. I've used those point and shoot cameras, and there's no, like, I edit videos for other people and they send me footage that they've shot on point and shoots and it's fine. Yeah, I really don't believe that any that should ever be a hindrance on you, like in terms of what you can produce.
Yeah, no, I agree. I first started, I think it was like my iBook or whatever, and then I can't remember. It took me forever to actually get away from like the actual terrible laptop camera. And I think
But we look better on those, don't we?
Yeah.
Like I use my eyesight and I'm like, I look better in low resolution.
And the nice blue glow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
nice.
that
nice.
uncanny blue glow that you get. But I moved. I got like a little Canon PowerShot. Now this was all the rage back in 2013. It was a little Canon PowerShot, and all the vloggers were using them. I went to VidCon. Maybe it was 2013, I think it was, and everyone put their camera down, and then no one knew whose camera was what. It was just this little, literally, it was like $120, I think, used on eBay or something like that. But now I have a Canon, I think it's a 60D, which I use just here and there if I'm filming in my room. Got some box lighting, also $100 on eBay. But when I'm vlogging I'm out and about, I do lots of travel stuff as well. I use a Canon G7X, and it will change your life. It's just a great little pocket camera. It's just a point and shoot. Like, it's nothing fancy at all. It's like auto, click, go.
This is not sponsored by Canon.
No, but I will say that the G7X, sorry, just because I have some people who use them and I edit their stuff, has the mic on top. So if you're going to hold it, keep your finger off the mic.
Yes.
Also, if you're going to film, I'm just thinking, I know this is really weird, but put yourself in front of a window. I know that sounds really weird, but you know how everyone takes selfies in cars and they look great? It's because of the window. So sit yourself in front of a window a little bit further back so that you're not blown out. Have a diffuser. I'm sure you guys all know this stuff, but just little things like that.
Lighting is your friend.
I hope you guys are writing all this stuff down. These are amazing tips.
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you. So kind of moving on from, we talked about how you got started and some of the practical side. How do you guys keep, I guess, what is your creative process for coming up with new ideas and concepts? Where does your inspiration come from?
Can we start?
Yeah.
I think mine's just like the awkward things that happen in life. Like, you know, a little bit socially awkward at best of times. I look like I'm not. Like, I look like I'm quite good, but no.
You do.
And I think as well, like, you know, I grew up on a farm. Grew up rolling around in dirt, and I lived in New York for a while. That was quite the transition, as you can imagine. And a lot of my inspiration just came from all those awkward situations where I'd just be like, I know you don't understand, and you look so cool right now. And, you know, when like a lot of dates and all these things, and just the weird situations you get in, I thrive off of that stuff. Like, I don't know what it is, I just love it. And then, like, you know, I've got these travel vlogs, and I was going around, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to travel. I literally was traveling by myself. Like, a bit of a loserish thing to do if you're just like doing that for 3 months. But I did, backpack, off I went. And when I was filming it, I thought, wow, this is kind of boring. But then I cut it together, and I actually recently watched them. I'm like, oh, they're kind of entertaining. But even when I was like uploading them, I was like, who's going to watch these? And I forgot what I was doing. But my thought on that was just like, I want to bring people around with me. One, it's a diary for myself. I can show what I was doing. But people like are interested in what your life is and and like letting people in, you know. So when I was traveling, it was just kind of like, oh wow, look, I found this really pretty shell on the beach. Really not that interesting, but people found it interesting, you know. So yeah, it changes, but for the most part, I think that's kind of where it comes from for me.
Yeah, mine's definitely just stuff that happens in real life, and I jot them down in a weird serial killer book. I'm like, that's a good one. I go home and I try and write scripts. The hardest part now is writing a script, because I guess I want to achieve something with them. So I kind of go, that's a weird idea. And then I go, what can, I give an example of it, and then I try and take people somewhere, I guess, that's fun. But I think I'm sure everyone has something to say. As soon as you meet up with a friend, you're like, I want to tell you something, that's something that you want to share. That's an experience that we would write down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Natalie just hit her 10-year YouTube anniversary, in case you guys hadn't seen. So you've been having to come up with ideas for a long, long time.
Yeah, I just take huge breaks in between, and then if you do, eventually 10 years rolls around. So it's good. It's good.
Is it hard to keep up those creative juices flowing, or do you have any kind of tricks? Is it literally just carrying a notebook around with you and writing down everything and hoping that you can use those ideas?
Yeah, I just carry a notebook with me, and also not to have pressure on yourself. I know that sounds really weird when you get caught up in YouTube sometimes. it feels like you have to do things, and people use a lot of like the language is very interesting. It becomes, I have to put a video up, I need to do this, and you don't have to do, and you don't need to do any of it. So the moment I kind of went, oh, that's all right, I'll just put a video up once I get one that I'm happy with, that made it much easier and much more enjoyable, and that's how you do it for 10 years, I think.
Yeah. I'm going to stop pressuring Natalie to upload every week. And I think that it's become sort of a running joke with your fans. When you say new video up every week, they're like, haha, Natalie's trolling us.
Yeah, I know, I feel bad.
Most recent comments. But, it's part of the inside joke of your community now.
Yeah, and I just think that's why it stops you from being frustrated with yourself, I think, because already creating something is quite frustrating. You don't want to add false pressures onto yourself.
Yeah. And the $1 million question, how do you get people to watch your stuff?
Oh, God. I think it's about connecting with people. It's about being passionate about if you believe what you're saying and you're being and create, I don't know, like it's like creating a community, and if you're passionate about something, there's going to be someone out there who's also passionate about it, and they will follow what you have to say. I think it's about creating a two-way conversation. It's don't speak at the camera, like listen to what people are saying to you, and taking thoughts on board. And there's lots of little hacks and tricks, that people put out there. It's just that you can do, Google them. But at the end of the day, it's about creating a community and a two-way conversation, and also connecting with other YouTubers. Don't be afraid to reach out to someone. If you think you're like, oh my God, like I love this person, I'd love to shoot a video with them one day. Why don't you? Like, honestly, I'm not sure if any of you know, like Miles J. He's a really good friend of mine. I literally was going through California and I said, hey, do you want to like hang out one day and like shoot a video? And he came around the next day and we shot a video that was a lot of fun to do. And like that's just how you do it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a great place to meet other people to shoot videos with.
I agree. I mean, obviously, everything that you said is true. Obviously, there are things that help. The things that I don't practice, but I will preach to you. Consistency is nice, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
I don't. I hear great things about it, and no, I have some people I work with, and I help edit their YouTube videos, and I will tell you when they're very consistent, and it's a really great thing because once you establish the community is like, oh great, I want to come back and I want to hear more. I guess it's like TV. If TV was like next episode of Homeland, guess, and then you just kind of had to figure it out, you wouldn't know. But all that kind of stuff does help. But I very much agree that unless that stuff that you're making is stuff that you want to make, no one else will be particularly interested in it, even if it's consistent.
Yeah. And I guess with the consistency thing, I think that the trick is, be as consistent as you can without driving yourself crazy and finding that kind of sustainable level. And obviously, you might end up doing this for 10 years or 20 years or whatever. And is this something that you can kind of do for the foreseeable future? That's probably the level to kind of shoot for.
Yeah.
What about kind of video as compared to different ways of storytelling? So I think people might have experience with different mediums. Jake, you mentioned that you kind of came from the MySpace and Tumblr over to YouTube.
Those glamorous days.
Can you talk about that sort of transition and how you think about different social media or ways of storytelling?
I mean, you could always say, like, write a blog, and those always, that can be authentic as you make it because they're words on a page, and a lot of people connect with, people love reading a book, people love reading blogs, but there's just something very captivating about. I mean, there's you've got comedy and everything, but let's just say break it down. You're talking about a social issue and you're sitting down. There's something really captivating about watching someone talk about something passionately, or talk about like hearing the words come out of their mouth and seeing the conviction and like what they're saying. I think that is the real difference. That makes video something different, like something really unique.
Do you still do other stuff as well as video?
Yeah, I still, like, I have an Instagram account and Twitter where I tweeted Natalie saying I was so excited to meet her.
I blocked him. No.
She said I'd be disappointed. I was. So, but yeah, I like have an Instagram, and I think people who do YouTube well do everything. I think everyone at YouTube understands that YouTube's not the only platform that people have a voice on, and you support all your actions with Twitter, Instagram. But I think the video is the most impactful stuff that I do.
Right.
I can filter a really great photo on Instagram or a nice, clever, witty tweet, but there's nothing quite in depth as creating a video.
Yeah. Natalie,
And
do you
video is
agree?
very powerful. I mean, how many of you share video? If that, it's just incredible. I can't believe how the reach of video. I know it sounds weird, but just one of the examples is when you see closed caption requests so often, and you realise even in this medium where people can't particularly understand what you're saying, the sound of what you're saying, the visuals is enough for them to be interested and to want to see the whole message. I just think if any of you have any messages to get out there, video is an incredibly powerful international tool to use.
Amazing. So I'll open it up to a couple questions from the audience. While people are thinking of their questions, just ask one more of you guys, which is, as Australians, are there any particular issues that you feel really passionate about when it comes to promoting diversity, which is a topic that, has been a big focus of the day?
I mean, Australia's situation at the moment with the asylum seekers is something that I'm really upset about, and I plan on making a video about that. And it's interesting because, again, I've been looking at ways different people do it. So you have a lot of talk show hosts kind of talk about an issue and then have funny asides, and I keep wondering, is comedy the way to go about it? Should I be angry and should I just do this piece to camera and just say, how can we do this as Australians? And then part of me also goes, actually, I think the best way looking at video is to say, well, Australia feels on this issue in particular, I feel like Australia is divided into two, when the reality is there isn't two, there's this kind of in-between that everyone's in on and people are focusing on different areas. And so for me, I'm thinking with video, I'm going to try and figure out a way to get everybody in the same boat as opposed to in the same area as opposed to trying to separate it. So I really care about that at the moment, and I'm using Facebook and Twitter very much to try and get everyone to the rallies, because I just think it's okay to be liking things and retweeting things and sharing things, but you have to physically show up at rallies, otherwise nothing will ever get done. But yeah, I'm definitely going to use YouTube for that kind of message. I'm really glad that to be honest, now that I can't, I'm so glad that I have a community who I feel, even if they don't agree with me, will at least let me share this. So that's definitely something I'm going to be talking about soon.
Exciting. Watch this space. What about you, Jake?
I've always been passionate about the LGBTQ plus community, and I think that's where YouTube for me really started to take form. So I have a few videos that I've done here and there. I've done an It Gets Better video. And
Proud
also
to be.
and Proud to Be.
Yeah.
I did that. Was that this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a really amazing project to be a part of. And I think as well as that we go through the whole marriage equality debate at the moment, that's something that I feel very strongly about. But also just, mental health and the LGBTQ plus space for me. I just know that I had very supportive parents, and I had I had a great upbringing, but I still struggled a lot internally with everything because of the societal pressures that I had. So I think, there's a lot of issues in the space that can be addressed, and I think a lot of them are coming to head at the moment. But that's just something that I'm passionate about, and definitely want to get involved with as it all kind of sort of comes to. But yeah, my last video that I did on it was the Proud to Be video, and I loved it. I loved being part of that campaign. It's one that YouTube pulled together globally, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for sharing your experiences and thoughts and great learnings and insights with everyone. Looks like we have one question. I have a bright light shining at me, but I can see someone with a microphone. So,
hi, Jake and Nat. How are you guys?
Well, thanks.
Hi.
How are you going?
So, with YouTube being filled with so much different types of content and everything, how do you find you guys break through the amount of content that is constantly being produced and find your own niche?
I think, like, everyone's unique, and I think it's about finding and projecting who you are, and over, like, as I know, like, I started a while ago, and over time, I think that's the way it evolved for me personally. At the moment, there's always new waves of people coming through, and it's about, I know I keep on saying the word community. Maybe it's because I'm sitting next to her. But I think it's about finding a voice and finding a community. And as I said, if you're passionate about something, that will be heard.
Yeah, you'll never be able to be like, I don't believe you can break through, like, how much footage is uploaded onto YouTube every single hour. It's phenomenal. I just think as long as someone comes to your channel and you have a consistent tone and they know what it's about, if they're interested, they'll stick around, and that'll be your community.
Yeah, like you can be like a superstar in like collecting shells, as I
Yeah.
said. You know what I mean? Like there's you don't really like, you've got people who have like commercial fame where people actually understand, like see them in the street and like, oh my god. But then you have got people who are thought leaders. You have got people who are educators. Like there's very different views on what is successful.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have one more question for Natalie.
Sure.
How's the Lamington video coming along?
She's checking her notes.
That's the script.
That'll never happen. But I make lamingtons for people when I do like things. I've been making lamingtons. So
She does. She made them for her 10-year
yeah.
anniversary barbecue. One over here.
Good afternoon. I was wondering, how long did it take before you, when you, like, to get to that point where you're like, wow, there's like over 100,000 people who, that kind of pivotal point. How long was that period before you woke up and you're just like, there's a lot of people watching me now?
I don't think you ever feel, and I mean this, you never feel as good as you do when you get like 20 views. No, but that's true, right? Because after a while, it does, because people are like, come on, let's make it 5 million subscribers. I'm like, well, 4 million wasn't good enough for you? But like 20, I'm like, 20 people? That's like 20 people over here. I know it sounds weird, but I think you'll never, I think that's when it's the biggest. I don't know. After that, I just enjoy that anyone would watch, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think I had a moment, though. I did have one moment, and that's when I was in LA with friends who were like all quite substantial YouTubers, and I was just like, hey, I'm nobody, just hanging out with them. And when I was like, I ordered a taco at a taco truck, and I was like, excuse me, are you ordering? There's like awkward moments where you're like, are you ordering or are you just waiting? Can I please? And then someone turned around and was just like, when they saw me, and I'm like, hi, can I get tea? And like, I think it was the moment for me where people
Someone recognized
Well, it's not even about recognize. It wasn't really that. It's that you realize that the power is like, I'm like literally in Anaheim, which is not like even in LA. It's like middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, when you have that moment, and I went home from that trip going, oh wow, this is a lot more powerful than I thought.
Yeah.
Because a number on a screen doesn't mean anything to you until you meet people.
Yeah, that's true. I will say, once I went to Mexico and they're like, this is the most rural part of Mexico. And someone came out of a house and went, Nat? And I went, wow. And that was really amazing. But you're right, numbers on a screen are different.
They don't mean
to
anything.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Firstly, Nat, I'm a huge fan, so this is
thank you.
quite
And you.
shocking. It's very surreal. But I have a question for you. You started creating content on YouTube and now you've transitioned into having an actual job which produces videos. How was that transition period for you, and how did you get started into being more, I guess, a proper outside of the internet job?
I don't know if it's a proper outside internet job because I do have a lot of weeks where I'm like, no one's hired me. I don't know. I think I mean, maybe this is just me, but if you're freelance in this kind of field, you're always kind of just trying to find work. So I guess you just have to be a little bit more proactive. But this is in any career, right? You just go, I'm going to promise that I can do something, and then I'm going to look up a lot of tutorials online and I'll figure it out. So I do a lot of that. So I have a lot of that this afternoon. I'm doing a lot. They're like, you can animate in 3D. I'm like, you betcha. And I'm like, okay. So I think you just have to do that kind of stuff and be proactive. And I just do a lot of free work, and I do things that I want to learn about. So I think that's the way to do it. Yeah.
Hey.
What up? Hey. Nat, I guess you're known predominantly for your comedy on YouTube, but lately...
Not my good looks.
But lately you've been writing a lot of posts on Facebook about the refugee crisis and our government's response to it. And I suppose you've inflamed a lot of people and gotten a lot of people to go to rallies, which is fantastic. But was that difficult? I mean, a lot of people have trouble making political statements because they're inflammatory and it could lose them.
Yeah. Oh, look, I used to think it was a problem to say things, and then especially about this, because I guess, and I can say this because we're all Australians, I don't want to be in a country that lets this happen. And for me, I just cannot stand by and tell my nieces when they grow up, I didn't do anything. I didn't go to rallies. I didn't give 100%. Like, that really bothers me. Oh. But yeah, like for me, I don't care if it drops to zero. If it goes into the negatives by some magic, it doesn't bother me. You know what I mean? Like, at some point, I'm just like, I cannot wake up and be that person who just goes, oh, it's a bit controversial to say human rights is an issue. You know, it's pretty, yeah. For me, it's just, you have to, otherwise I wouldn't be able to look my nieces in the face.
That's an excellent answer. So let's end on that. Thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you guys for asking amazing questions and being supportive and clapping. Let's give them a final round.
Thanks, guys.